Hi Cameron, I wanted to go over a few things with your inequalities assignment. I have it pasted over here on the left. It's a little blurry, but I could kind of see what you were doing. On the first one, the negative 7x plus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 18. It appears as though you combined negative 7x and 3. You added them together to get negative 4x. You cannot combine those because these are not like terms. If it was negative 7x plus 3x, I could combine these and it would be negative 4x. But like terms have to have the same variable and the same exponent. Or they could just be regular numbers like 8 minus 11. These are like terms. So we can't combine these. So what we need to do is solve for x, get x by itself by moving things to the other side. When you're solving an inequality, it's like solving an equation, except if you ever have to multiply or divide by a negative number, you flip the sign. So every time you do a step, you ask yourself, do I flip the sign? So with an equation and inequality, I like to always undo what's added or subtracted to that variable first. So I'm going to undo this plus 3 by subtracting 3. You do that on both sides, and you end up with negative 7x and negative 21. Now, do you flip the sign for subtracting? No, it stays the same. Now I'm going to undo this multiplying by negative 7 by dividing by negative 7. That cancels out, and I have an x and a 3. Do I flip the sign for dividing by a negative number? Yes. If you ever multiply or divide by a negative number to solve it, you flip the sign. So it's x is less than or greater than 3. Now when you're plotting this, if it is equal to, then you do a solid dot. So I think this is 3 right here. Let's say this is 3 on our number line. So I'm going to do a solid dot, and it's everything less than. So I'm going to go this way. And so let's look at the next one. I'm going to have you do a few of the other ones and solve them in order to get credit for this assignment. But I want to show you something about question number 2 as well. So let me write down that inequality. Again, it looks like you combined these, and they're not like terms because one has an n and the other doesn't. It has to have the same variable and exponent. So you just need to start moving things away from the n. So if you subtract your 6, do you flip the sign for subtracting? No. Even though our answer is negative, don't be thrown by that. You only flip the sign if the action you are performing is multiplying or dividing by a negative number. How do we get rid of this 1/3? There's 2 ways. You could either multiply by the reciprocal, because this 3 over 3 cancels and this 1 over 1 cancels. Or I like to think of this as 1 divided by 3. So I'm going to undo the dividing by 3 by multiplying by 3. And so I get n, 1n, and negative 6. Do you flip the sign for multiplying by a positive number? No. Even though our answer is negative, what we did was multiply by a positive number. So we don't flip it. So again, when you are graphing, if it is equal to, you do, like if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you do a solid dot. But if it's not equal to, if it's less than or greater than, then you do an open dot. Now, number 3, I'd like you to try on your own. Again, make sure you're only combining terms that are alike, and then graph that. For number 4, you got it right. You wrote the inequality correct, but you need to solve it. And so why don't you solve that inequality now using what you know, making sure that you only combine terms that are alike, and you flip the sign whenever you multiply or divide by a negative number. For number 5, the inequality you wrote was incorrect. Your answer was incorrect. When you are writing these, you want to, just like with an equation, you want to first define your variable. So you're just saying what is not known, and that's usually in the question. What's the largest number of miles a limousine can travel? So defining the variable just means saying, I'm going to let m equal the number of miles. And then when you see the word per, that means you are multiplying that variable by some number. So like here, it says the limo costs $5.25 and 15 cents for each mile driven. For each mile driven, that's like saying per mile. So if you just drove 1 mile, they're just going to charge you 15 cents. But if you drove 10 miles, they're going to charge you 15 cents times 10. You're multiplying the 15 cents by the number of miles you drive. And then again, the $5.25. Now, it says, what is the largest number of miles you can travel if they just have a budget of $600? So you want to think about what sign goes here. And I'm going to let you figure that out. The amount that they charge you, do you want that over here to be less than 600 or greater than? If it's less than, is it okay if it also equals $600? If your budget is $600, you have $600 in cash? If it's greater than, is it okay if it's also equal to? So you want to figure out what the symbol is and then solve this for m. And then this one, you were able to figure out the right answer, which is great. I want you to go back though and think about what the variable is. What is our unknown? Like what letter do you want to use, like X or S? So say what your unknown is. Let's just say we're going to use S for the shelters, the number of shelters. And I'm going to get you started on this problem, writing this inequality, but I want you to finish it up. So it says they can collect no fewer than 388. So that's like your total. She gave 64 coats to her church, and she donated the remaining coats to shelters. She gives a minimum of 36 shelters to each, or 36 coats to each shelter. So you want to think, what is the symbol here? If they can collect no fewer than 388, so does this have to be less than or greater than 388? Is it okay if it equals 388? And then also you want to think, does the S for shelter, are we multiplying 64 coats by the number of shelters, or are we multiplying the 36 by the number of shelters? So write that inequality and then solve.